Howdy ho, campers. How you doing? Hey, LaWayne.
Hey, Sharon, how you been?
Man, I'm good. I've been good. I've been good. It's raining like cats and dogs here, but it's been good. How have you been, sir?
I've been well. Just as I told a friend of mine when they asked me that question, I feel like I'm on a treadmill with roller skates on. Um,
Right, right. It is.
it's-
It is. You almost thought it was going to slow down,
no, so it
but
most
no,
certainly
but no.
surprise, we're here.
Yes, we are here, and you know what? Thank you so much. Even though we do this together, thank you so much for continuing to show up, continuing to make yourself available. Thank you just for the consistency of showing up and sharing and asking hard questions and you know bringing information. So I really do appreciate that. It's just as one industry professional to another.
I appreciate
Kudos,
that. Yeah, absolutely,
kudos, right there.
absolutely. Consistency is the key, and it matters, right? If
It
we
does
can
matter.
and influence, impact, inform just one viewer,
Yeah.
our job is done.
Yeah. So I'm excited. Welcome to Knowledge and Nonsense, guys. Please feel free to share this video. Let your people know it's time. We're on. We're going to talk about effective communication tonight in-house. Not effective communication at the library or the grocery store, but in-house. How do you effectively communicate with the OR team? How do you effectively communicate to IP, to infection prevention? How do you effectively communicate even to your upline as far as capital purchases or something that needs to be addressed when maybe your back is to the wall or we're frustrated, everyone's a little tapped out. We're still dealing with staffing shortages. Can we just keep it real? But effective communication in-house, sometimes with somebody that you don't even have an audience with yet, but you need to get that information to them. And so I'm excited about it. Brian Reynolds is going to join us again this week. So
It's gonna be a good show. The how you deliver your message, your story can really change the narrative and the outcome of your
okay.
purpose. So it's important. Listen up, take notes, and let's dive right into it.
All right, let's dive right into it. We'll be right back. This is a good time though to share this video, and but as they say, get you some popcorn, but also get you a pen
That's
and a
right.
pad, and let's write this down. We'll be right back. Hi, yo, how you doing, Mr. Reynolds?
Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys today?
All is well.
Man, I'm good. I'm good. Last week we started with the news. I would like for us to hit the news maybe in the latter section this time, so we can at least hit some of the questions that we have because this is chaos.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're gonna hit it a little later. But right now, I want to. How are you? How's your week been, Brian? Have you been effectively communicating already?
That's a must. That's every day. It's a must. But it's going. I mean, we all have our personal things that we have to deal with. It's been a rough week because of some other things, but work wise, it's the nature of the beast.
Hmm. People in our industry, we tend to communicate a lot. From the moment we get up, we communicate with our alarm clock. Those non-verbal cues, and communicating on the way to work. Does it ever get any easier?
No.
Do you still need more practice? How do you maintain, if you are Sharon, an effective communicator? How do you maintain that stance or that skill set?
I just think practice makes permanent. When I grew up, people would say all the time, "Hey, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect." And I understand the ideal, IDEAL, of shooting for perfection, but practice makes permanent. It makes permanent. And so it's almost like how you drive home, and sometimes you get home and you're like, "I don't even know how I got here." As you begin to practice effective communication, sometimes even when you're stressed, that practice kicks in. When people are in the NBA or the NFL, they tell you it's technique once you get to that level. because practice have made certain moves almost like permanent. Like it's the go-to, it's muscle memory. And communication comes from this muscle here. It utilizes this muscle. But to me, practice makes permanent. I'm not saying that it gets easier, but it becomes more permanent. So that things that
I like that. I'm going to use that. Practice makes permanent. At this year's HSPA, I was in awe how both of you, good folks, seem to master your presence on stage. And as an observer looking, I'm like, okay, they don't appear to be nervous. They appear that this is a zone. How do you, Brian? What tips can you give to effectively communicate to an audience, right? Because in a department, a huddle report, meet with the OR at 5:30, that's an audience. A one-on-one interview with someone, different audience. But HSPA, big stage, the energy. What tips do you give someone? How did you? Because you both look extremely comfortable. I didn't see any. I know when I'm nervous. I'll tell you how you can tell when I'm nervous a little later on the show. But Brian, how do you master that gravity?
I would say this. I was nervous. However, I guess playing through it, I'm a firm believer of if you can't laugh at yourself, something's wrong. I think, I got to give Miss Combs her props because she does this a lot more than myself. But what I've noticed is that if you can tell, I'm not going to say a joke, but if you can say something to get people, engaged in what you're going to say, and when they're fully engaged in it, I think it makes the situation a little bit easier. And firm believer of the first thing, when you meet people, in the first 5 minutes, they tell you who they are. You just got to be able to listen. So for me, it was a very eye-opening moment. I think COVID happened, 2 years passed, so that last year was so fast. For me, it's like everything was just in that moment. I was able to share the stage with Tanya, and she didn't have to let me do it, but she did. And I'm very thankful for that. And it made the situation a little bit easier because we joked a little bit. Me and Miss Combs was joking about some stuff, and it just made it a little bit easier. But woo, I am nervous when I get up here on that stage. Trust me.
Gotcha.
I definitely, as far as effective communication, I try to use words. Again, with effective communication, I try to use power words, less passive words. And so for me, I don't like to use the word nervous. I'm not saying I don't use it, but I don't like to use it when it comes to speaking or an initiative or an endeavor, because when I use the word negative, I tend to think of what can go wrong. I'm nervous. I hope this doesn't happen. And we steer where we stare, we gravitate toward what we focus on. And so for me, I say I'm excited. I'm excited because for me, again, and with a lot of people, excitement changes what I'm looking for. I'm excited. I hope I do a good job. I'm excited. I hope this. I'm excited. I hope the points come across. I don't say I'm excited. I hope I don't trip. I would say if I'm nervous, I hope I don't trip or I hope something doesn't go wrong. So I don't, even though I feel probably the same thing someone who is nervous feels, like the butterflies in your stomach, I become aware of my breathing. I become aware of the pitch and the pitch of my voice, the frequency of the words, how fast they come out. I become very aware of everything. And so I step on the stage excited. I'm excited. And to come out of that excitement and focus on the job at hand, I began to focus on my audience. And I use that same thing when I'm in a huddle, when I'm doing a one-on-one interview. Whoever I'm speaking to, I make it about them. And if I can think about them, then I'm not caught up, thinking about me. And that tends to help me with communication.
Listen, this is turning to be a master class right here, right now on Knowledge and Nonsense. So you make it to the stage or desk, the boardroom. I know for me, the first minute and a half, my body is in chaos. Heart is palpitating. Sweat is dripping down my afro. I can distinctly hear the breathing patterns of everyone in the room, especially if it's a board meeting. I can hear it. It's like it's slow motion for the first minute and a half. But once you begin to engage, how do you maintain the subject? How do you control the messaging? Because your words are saying one thing, but if your body's out of sync with the words, or your words out of sync with the body, there's no marriage there. There's no union. Brian, how do you marry the messaging, the energy, and your body language? That's a skill. How do you do that?
When you're in a room with somebody, I think it's a little bit easier because you get to engage with the people that you're actually talking to, and you get to see. I tend to watch the room. When you say certain things, you see people's body language, so you tend to mimic, not so much mimic what they do, but just what frequency to give, or how fast it goes with the situation, or how much more you need to explain. It's a little harder when you do it on Teams. You really can't see your audience. In most situations, I think they make it prevalent nowadays. You have to have your camera on, but it's really hard to do it when you're doing these Teams meetings. I mean, it's just, you just have to wing it and pray that everything works out the best of your ability, and just know that whatever you're speaking about, make sure that it matters to the audience that you're speaking to. You can't walk into a situation where you're having a conversation about the O.R., dealing with certain things that they have no knowledge of, nor do they care about. So I think you just have to know your audience.
Okay. Sharon, how do you marry those regions? How do you pull it in so the messaging matches the body language matches the tempo of the environment and audience?
All right. So I definitely believe at this point, even though I am a co-host of this show, I think I'm a panelist today because, communication is what I do in a large part, and I do have the language mastery class. So the first thing I want to speak to is what Brian just said. Even with Teams, it's a lot harder there. I'm going to respectfully say not for me. Okay. I treat it the same way I treat whether I'm speaking again on a stage, a platform, in a huddle, or whatever. You have to be prepared for whatever your message is. If you coming in hot, I'm coming in hot. You're trying to make it into the huddle, and you slide into the huddle just as the manager is about to start speaking. You're not going to be as prepared. You're going to have to say something off the cuff, maybe a joke, maybe a disclaimer. There's going to be something that pulls away from the message. And so whether you're on Teams or whatever, once you have to prepare your message. You have to prepare your message. That's how you stay on track. You prepare your message. You practice what you're going to say. If you know you're going to a environment, a care meeting, or you're going to have to present something to your C-suite or the OR, you have to prepare that. You need to have the information at hand. If it's the ST91, you have to prepare and practice your message. Practice makes permanent. A lot of times individuals believe because they know something in their head that it's going to translate out of their lips the same way. Mm-hmm. And we all know that it doesn't. Even just being on a platform like this, how many times for first time people, second time, 100-time people, you're like, oh, I should have said this after it was over. I was going to say. So you're asking me, how do I marry my message? I practice the message. So the message is what I'm there for.
Interesting.
I want to say that part again. The message is what I'm there for. Even though I want to ask how you doing, LaWayne? Hey, how are you doing, Brian? I'm there for the message. And for it to be effective, my message needs to land with you in the same shape, urgency, and structural formation that it leaves me in. Does that make sense what I'm saying there?
It does make sense.
And so that's how I do it. I think if we focus on the message, then we may not get as, are they listening to me because I can't see anybody's face on Teams? I just see initials. Or if you are distracted, even though you're listening to me and your eyes are going different places, If I don't focus on the message, I'm going to focus on your eyes. And so now my message is going to lose some of its potency because I'm more worried about what's on your mind instead of facilitating the transfer of this information.
I love it. That's a gem. That's a gem. So we just covered, some of the jitters. We dove right into Jamel R. Ross, be married to the message and open to messaging, mending the methods. Love it.
Yes.
5 M's: married, message, messaging, and mending the method. I love that. Thank you very much for sharing that. So you're engaged in a more personal environment, right? And for a long time, I didn't know how to read the room. And by reading the room, I've learned that based on what people's position, based on what they're trying to achieve from meeting you, your body language can be received differently, right? Much differently. So I used to talk a lot with the hand, and I would be in certain areas, and while my mouth is going 1,000 miles an hour, and the messaging I think is strong, the attention is based on what am I doing with my hands, right? And it used to throw me off, like, why are you so focused? Am I making you nervous, distracting you? What's happening here? When people speak with their hands, is this a phenomenon? Brian, Sharon, have you experienced this?
Like she said, you have to prepare for it, because I used to do that a lot. When you talk, I used to talk with my hands, but you learn over time when you talk to people, because again, people's perceptions are their reality. So you have to work on that. And like she said, you got to prepare for it. A lot of times it's hard, but a lot of us do talk with our hands. But when you're engaging in a professional environment with your peers, you have to, kind of sort of pull that back a little bit and just figure out different ways to get your point across without your hands.
Well, what's wrong with talking with my hands, Sharon? Coach us.
Absolutely nothing, as long as your hand is supporting your message and not pulling away from your message. Earlier, you guys, I think it was Brian, just one of you mentioned being married to the message, and Dwayne, the question was, how do you stick to it and have it all like come out together aligned? And so, listen, man. Hey, let me just do a plug right here for language mastery and progressive leadership, because these are things. See my hand here? These are things I teach. So there's nothing wrong with using your hands, as long as your hand is supporting your message, not overruling your message and not distracting from your message. So if it's conflict resolution, if your hands are going to communicate something that you're not wanting to communicate, whether that's aggression or playing into a stereotype that can be used against you, then make sure your hands are being used to support your message. If it's, hey, I really want to understand, then let your hands come open and say, I really want to understand. If you are speaking in a larger room, you're going to have to use more than just your voice, unless you're a singer and you really have just really trained your pitch, because your gestures are going to support what you're saying. Now, if I'm speaking to someone, not to be crass, but I start digging in my ear or playing in different orifices or something, then my hands are distracting and taking away from the message. So your hands can be a wonderful tool for your message if you can use them as a tool. I do say this definitely with people who are new in leadership. Some of the individuals who are new in leadership, based on personality and based on style, flair, communication, preferences. Sometimes when people are pressured, I tease them and I say, are you catching your words? Because they'll talk and they'll say something and their hand will be right here. And I just tease and I say, are you catching your words? Because if you catch them before they get to me, you're holding everything you're saying. You know what I'm saying? And they catch the words. And I'll just say, no, I don't know what you're saying, because you're catching your words. And, we have to expand sometimes our vocabulary.
Yes.
Not fake, still be you, but you have the right to expand your vocabulary.
Hey, you know what? I had a different question, but you just put me on a new trajectory. So I can recall some speakers, Brian and Sharon, where as they're engaging with the audience, I call them filler words. It would be, you know what I'm saying? Um, uh, um, you almost can get a beat to it. How do we, you know what I'm saying, get past that? You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? How do we get past those filler words? Because that is extremely distracting, and it can damage the entire event. Your messaging, everything can be laid to the wayside if your filler words are filling up the tank without true articulants. So Sharon, language
Oh,
master, help us out here.
not like that term. First, you have to be aware of them. For a long time, it was easy just for me to say, I don't know. Someone would say something like, what are you wearing to the show? I don't know. But I did know. It was just easy to say, I don't know. Sometimes it's easier to say, you know what I'm saying? Or the ums. If you're not aware of it, it's not going to change. Awareness is what drives behavior. So unless someone brings your attention to it, or you're looking at a video of yourself speaking, you're practicing in the mirror, you're going to Toastmasters and someone else is counting your filler words, there's not going to be an active awareness of it. So there's no need to adjust that behavior. Again, the hands to support what you're saying, not distract from what you're saying. So I don't know that you get past it. You just become aware of it. And if you're aware of something that you want to cut out, you'll cut it out as it begins to show its head more and more. I don't think speaking is hard, any harder than putting together trays, any harder than, having a corrective action with one of your direct reports. I think it's just practice and having somewhere to process after it's over, because you will feel what you said, Luane, that energy, but man, focus on the message.
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think speaking is difficult, but I believe it can be mastered. I use this as an example. When someone is speaking, they're now speaking in the first person narrative. There's no filter, there's no shade, there's not a tray to interpret, right? There's not a piece of art that you gotta kind of figure out what was the artist thinking there. Why the mirage of gray and blues? No, it's you. And it's Judgment Day, right? The moment you release those pronouns, verbs, nouns, adjectives, you're being judged, right? And is a jury of folks you may or may not know, right? Some who have multiple skill sets, but they're literally you're painting a story based on the main character who's delivering the narrative. So I think it can be mastered. I think it takes practice, like you said. Arlene Bush, I legit count when speaker says
And she's the reason why it's hard for people to get up and speak. Right there. She's the reason. That person right there.
Arlene, that's so funny, but it can be distracting. That's one, Arlene. I gave you that one.
Awareness drives behavior. It's all good though.
So you're in an auditorium, a boardroom, and you can feel the shift of energy if your messaging is drowning. If what you're trying to deliver is not being received, not being felt. You and Sharon, you said you look into the audience member's eyes or whoever you're speaking to see their expressions. How do you reel them back in? Because you can be going far left and you want to keep them centered. How do you, someone controlling the room, how do you pull them back into the center, right where you want them?
Let me say this. I don't know these things because I just woke up and was like, da 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 da, and I know these things. I've invested in this. Crush the Stage. I had a coach. I invested in like a boot camp. I'm a part of John Maxwell. I'm with Personality Insights. So there are things I've invested in over the years to help me with things like audience psychology. And again, what helps me not get tripped up on myself, and it's an ongoing process, is I focus on the message, the full message, which means leaving me, mode of transition, and landing in a way that is satisfactory with the hearer, with the audience. So I focus on the message. If I see that they have gone somewhere or I've said something that you feel it sucked the air out the room, like a joke that was a little too colorful for that audience, or something that made them uncomfortable, not in a growth way, but in a distracting from your message. Now you're undermining your credibility. So when you feel that suck, you know what, Luane, I need to charge you for this. This
You
is my
should.
language mastery stuff. I'm giving away. I gotta pull it back a
Well,
little bit.
I gotta push back because we said, hey, you all, this was intentional. When I saw the topic, I said, oh, the master is now becoming a student. But I do want to dig in deeper, but I want to give some space on this platform. I would love for you to educate us on what UCDI leadership is, what's offered, and how can our viewers, our students, our mentees, our coworkers, peers, and colleagues invest in themselves by way of UCDI. So this is just a nugget. This is, and nuggets come in 6 and 12 pieces. This is a half nugget, but it's a lot. It's a whole lot.
All right. So UCDI leadership it's a network. It is a leadership company, and it helps people navigate promotion. Often when we get a promotion, we're excited about the honeymoon phase, but we don't understand the transitions that occur with it, which means now your previous peers or your direct reports, where Arlene says she's counting the ums, your previous peers may be counting your, not necessarily ums, but things you do that maybe they wouldn't have done. And so I help people navigate promotion. And with that, I help them learn and master communication. I have a program called Language Mastery. So I'm kind of a communications coach, is what some people call me. I don't call myself that, but I'm going to help you navigate your communication. I'm going to help you with the written word, with the spoken word, emails, email etiquette, things like that. I'm going to help you be able to keep what you have worked for as it relates to promotion and career development. You worked hard to get that spot, that seat. We're going to make sure you stay in that seat until you want to go to your next seat. And so that's what I do within UCDI leadership. We have a language mastery course, a progressive leadership course. I work with everyone from consultants to new supervisors. I don't often work with technicians or lead technicians just because I really hit some real crunch type stuff. And sometimes your feelings, you're going to have to navigate feelings. And so when people are new in leadership roles, as far as like lead techs, they may not have the time, not the intellect, but they may not have the time because they're learning so much about a role to give to that leadership growth at that time. So that's what I do. But let me come back to this. You said when the room changes is what you said. Like the atmosphere shifts and
That's
you
right.
can tell your audience is gone. You
That's
can even
right.
tell it virtually. Like right there when I started talking about that at the end, I could feel the atmosphere shift. We begin to lose some people because it's like, all right, that's good. We got it now. Let's go back to the answer. When you feel the shift, you have to be willing to pause and not be so stuck to your slides or your presentation or reading off the paper that you go ahead of your audience. Again, if the message doesn't land with the intended audience, be that the huddle, the boardroom, the CNO, the people in the room, the suite, when you have to carry an instrument, if your message doesn't land at its intended person in the same structural integrity it left you in, then it's ineffective. So when you feel that shift and when you recognize that you've lost somebody, just wait on them, you know,
I love it. I
whether that
love it.
means being quiet or telling a joke or saying, hey, Brian, what do you think about this?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Brian, what do you think about this?
I knew you was gonna do that, but no, I mean I agree. I mean in most situations it goes back to like what you said before. When you study your information in reference to what you're giving, then you have a better aspect of giving that information to everyone. You know, when you prepare for it, like with HSPA, a lot of the stuff that we did on my part, we got it the day of. So it wasn't, you weren't able to really read it and understand. And a lot of it was paraphrasing. It's like, okay, fine. I tend to read ahead of myself. So if I read ahead and I'm like, okay, well, let me say it this way, because if I say it this way, it may come across a little bit better. So I think it's just more so studying what you're going to deliver so that you know how to deliver it a little bit better and where you can cut certain things. I think one of the things that you said that was profound is you try not to read everything that's on that slide. If I prepared the slide and I know what I want to talk about, I don't need to read it. You can read it. You already see it. So I just need to be able to deliver the message so that you can take it.
Well said. Well said. I can tell you, in reading the room, learning your audience, you also should learn yourself, right? I understand I'm not a visual thinker. I can think visually, but I'm not a visual thinker. I'm a verbal thinker. I actually hear in a voice saying, no, when I'm speaking, I can hear myself. So I try to go on that route. And what's so cool about learning your audience is you also have to change your language. I want to speak out not just language mastery, because you have to be able to master a language and certain aspects of language. If I'm speaking to a group and half of the group are airline pilots, I would have done my homework. I'm going to use key terms that they can connect with, period. If I'm speaking to a group of nurses, I'm not going to speak heavy SPD lingo. SPD has its own language, folks. We know this, right? We can say some things and you'll be lost in the sauce. So, Sharon, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, I don't even have a thought. I do have a thought. My thought is say that again, because if you're speaking to nurses and you're heavy on SPD language, this is something that comes up with the Progressive Leadership Program. This is something that comes up even when being able to work with consultants and people who are in management. We're on a limited time schedule. There is another case. There's a whole hospital that has to be run operationally. This is not the time for you to give them an in-service or a competency on a tray. You have to be able to craft your message for your audience, and I think that's respectful.
I think so.
I think, there may be some pushback for somebody like, well, what about us? We don't get recognized. They need to respect what we do. Yes, they do. I'm not countering that at all. Yes, they do.
It's yeah.
However,
you have to practice.
You are the person giving a message and you're wanting to say something to them and you want it to land. It's with them. You have to make it relevant to them. Indeed. This is why this would benefit us as a team, not just SPD, us as a surgical team. We are.
It makes so much sense, and I'm guilty of it. I was that guy as a young technician, very studious. I would answer Brian in AAMI standards, simple stuff. I would memorize the whole chapter, and you ask me something simple, and I've learned people. I've changed a lot. It took some practice. I would answer in full standards. I'm giving you the whole paragraph, section B, paragraph 2, and by the time you and I have finished talking, the message was lost. You probably thought I was a jerk, and I could have just said, this is how you work to sterilize in real time, tech cheat sheet. I gave you the whole standard, why it's deemed necessary, down to the water quality. Too much, didn't read the room, didn't understand my audience. Why is it hard for you when communicating? So I think we should take a short break. At this time, I need our guest and host to take a breather. There's a lot of information that was just shared, a lot of notes given, and I'm excited right here on Knowledge and Nonsense.
All right, we'll be right back, guys. right, everyone, we're back. Lwayne, it wasn't intentional, but it was a nice. It fit.
Oh, it's received. I love it. Um, Culture, right? We all come from different backgrounds, religions, neighborhoods, zip codes, countries, languages. How much does your culture from whence you came impact your delivery pattern, your speech, your words? How much does your culture, um, Brian? How much does your culture, your upbringing, impact how you speak, how you deliver messages?
I, I would say this, going back to what you said at the very beginning. I think it affects it a lot. You have to. It's something that you really got to invest your time in. A lot of people speak certain ways, and you know, it goes back to dialect. When you speak to certain things and you speak to certain people, certain things that we may say may be comfortable to us, but it may not be comfortable to someone else. So I can tell you over time, I've learned to deal with things a little bit differently and speak a little bit differently than I normally would with someone that I'm very comfortable with. Like we had said before, when you say that word, you know what I'm saying? Or um, even with saying, it just depends on that whole circumstances. So I think it's really gonna vary based on where you're from.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting. Interesting. Sharon, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I think absolutely. Culture is going to influence communication no matter where we're from because that was our first words. Mama, dada. Culture. That's our first introduction to communication. And so, of course, it's going to influence, and it's okay that it influences. That's amazing. That's good. That's great. But you still want to master language because language is the common denominator that even crosses cultures. And so, when I first started really trying to master language and expound and grow vocabulary, I looked at it as being bilingual. It's not bilingual because it's all the King's English, so to speak, but it's bilingual because how I speak with somebody in my zip code that I came up in, they're going to understand the colloquialisms, the idioms, the slang. That's all those words mean. And so I learned how to say one thing three different ways. Another nugget, you guys can have that for free. And it helps me to navigate and still be able to communicate effectively.
Hmm.
Effectively. Also, not just my culture. All right, and I'm going to give it back to you, but this is my wheelhouse. Not just the speaker's culture. If the only culture I'm considering is mine, I'm doing a disservice to whoever I'm speaking to. What about their culture? They may not be familiar with the slang and the idioms of where I'm from. And so are the metaphors that we use all the time. So if I come speak to the OR and they're not familiar with the slang from our department or from our culture, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What am I
Yeah.
doing? You know, again, you have to be able. Listen, leaders, people out there. You want to grow. You want to do things. You have to be willing to put in the work. And the same respect, interest, or care and consideration you would want someone else to come and have when speaking to you, give it back to them.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. I also think Sharon, traveling helps, and not just traveling the world, traveling outside of your department, traveling
Yes.
outside of your neighborhood. So, being raised in New York City, I was privileged to be around a multitude of cultures, more languages in my neighborhood than in most small American cities, right? Diverse. And I remember I was taught a hard lesson. My neighbor who was Vietnamese, whenever he would talk to his family, I would say, why are they always yelling? Why are they so loud? Why are they yelling? Wasn't yelling. Phonetically, the verbs and colloquialisms and sounds sound louder in their language to us, how it's translated, right? In my own household, growing up, the softest voice would be that of my grandmother, but everyone else would talk loud for no reason. It's just the way we speak. Hey, how you doing? Louder than you would think. Why is everyone yelling? So I also think it's important to travel. Get out and get around. Get out your zip code, as Sharon, you would say, it's interesting. Language is so interesting. It's truly the foundation of everything we do. And different types of languages. Uh, wow, this has been a lot of fun tonight. I think if we can recap, because I think we have a little time to talk about what's in the news, if that's all right with you. Let's recap on some of the messaging that we delivered tonight. We spoke about that nervous energy. Sharon then flipped the script and said she does not tell herself is even nervous. So certain words you don't use because of how you're going to respond to the words used. Is that the best way to surmise?
What you focus on, you gravitate toward. And so when I focus on being nervous, I'm thinking about what can go wrong. Gotcha. That's the connotation I have with nervousness. Someone else may not have that same association.
That's powerful. We also said practice makes permanent. Brian said, don't be afraid to laugh at yourself. AK, don't take yourself so serious. You get to the real you. We also went over reading the room, how to become aware of your audience, those around you, and adjusting your language. I think my favorite part of tonight's show was how you really broke down about hands and movement, right? Because what my takeaway was, if you're delivering a message, and this is one of your modes of transportation, and it's not getting to the recipient, then you fail, right? And your hands, your movement must coincide with your message. So that was a key takeaway for me. That was a real key takeaway. We should do this more often. You and Brian should become guests more often on this show. This was a lot of fun.
There was one takeaway that you did not say, and that was about marrying your message. Did you say that?
We did. And Miss Ross put up a powerful statement, and we can find that. That was well said, and I think I'm gonna put that on a T-shirt. We need to share that with everyone. That was well said. She said, be married to the message and open to the messaging, mending the methods. That's powerful. Right now, I can tell you, Ms. Ross, that statement is making a slide somewhere right now. You're going to make someone seem extremely intelligent with that.
And she's a powerful speaker.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking forward to speak here real soon. So what have we missed? What other takeaways do we want to share with our up and coming leaders? Because everyone's an up and coming leader, whether they acknowledge it or not.
I would say don't take things so personal. Recently I said the word and I was like, if somebody's going to be an ally, and for a long time I would say that's our niche or niche. And every time I said niche, I'd say or niche, because I wasn't sure which pronunciation was the most accepted. They're both accepted, right? And so recently, like very recently, even though I know the word, I was speaking with somebody and I was like, well, no, they're like an ally. It's an ally. That's an ally, like somebody on our squad. And the person looked at me and they said, ally. And I said, ally is the same. She said, no, ally is an alliance. This is someone from an alliance. And then she smiled, but she was serious. She was like, I don't want you to go on anyone's stage and say alley, because that sounds like ALLEY, like an alley in a city or an alleyway. It's ally. And I just looked at her and I was like, but every time I think of that word now, you know what I think of? Alliance. And so like, don't take things personal. I could have been like, we're the only two in here. You don't have to correct me like that, and made it a whole. No, thank you. Thank you. Help me level up. As we say, LaWayne, don't call somebody out. My man True from February, one of our guests on the show with the Minnesota Timberwolves, said, call them up, call them in. Don't just call them out. And so I appreciate her calling me up and calling me in. So don't take everything personal. Just because somebody is giving you some information that can help you improve.
Yeah, that's
attacking you.
That's powerful. I also think, I want to push back to this a little bit, not
Okay.
on the message, but on the messenger. Because see, sometimes the messenger is delivering a message. It's hard not to take it personal when it's intended to be personal, right? And even although there's a message in there, and you're gonna learn. Listen, fire can cook an egg or can burn your house, right?
Well, Wayne, I'm going to agree with her on that because over time, what I can tell you is this. Being in a role of leadership, you're going to have to do a lot of speaking in front of other people. You're going to have to do a lot of presenting to your staff, to the upline, to the C-suite, and things of that nature. What I've learned over time is I don't take it personal because the message isn't about Brian. You know, I'm delivering a message to you that's based on the fact of, for instance, where I work, we'll just say Hospital C. I work for Hospital C, and Hospital C has rules, regulations, and guidelines that I must deliver to you. So at the end of the day, when I'm giving you this rule, the rules, the regulations, and the guidelines, if you feel a certain type of way and you're angry with me about it, I'm not going to take it personal because at the end of the day, it's not Brian's hospital. It's Hospital C. So I agree with her. I don't. Sometimes we all know that when it comes to delivering the messenger, a lot of people shoot the messenger and not the messagees, the people that's giving it to you. So I just don't. Over time, I will tell you, being in this for as long as I have, I don't sweat the small stuff and I don't take it personal.
And it's hard for me to take them personal. You can jump in, Sharon. One last little niche I want to just put in there.
Share this video. Share this video. Yeah, we got 10 minutes and we about to do it. I see it. Go to Wayne.
There are moments where
he had to use that word niche.
There are moments where the messenger is not qualified to deliver the message.
Okay, I'll agree.
So I can receive the message, but it's from an unqualified disciple. You're talking in terms you can't defend. If I was a pushback, I saw you do the same thing. Yesterday evening, it was just not a real thing. Last night, it's like, wait a minute, hold up, stop the show. So that was my only pushback. The messenger, for me to respect it, and messengers can come from children, it can come from anyone, right? But the messenger, in some spaces, must be qualified to deliver the message. But why are you carrying the bell when you should be carrying the water?
But think about what this is supposed to be doing. Ms. Combs said at the very beginning, those particular people who are just coming into leadership, we're developing them, letting them know, hey, this is the thing to do. Because, come on, at the very beginning, you said yourself, when you first start out, you go read all the things in between section C, point 2, point 3.
I wasn't prepared as a messenger.
And we all have had that moment. But I can tell you that where we are in this space and in this time, we've hit those brick walls. So I think what we're trying to do is trying to give those particular people behind us the ability to understand and see these coming before they actually get there. I'm gonna be honest, at the very beginning, I used to take it personal too. I'm not, when you said something, I'm gonna take it that way. But over time, I've had a lot of people, include, the same person that told Ms. Combs about the ally instead of Ali, they've been very intentional. You used my word earlier. I was gonna tell you, thank you so much. But she's been very intentional in my life of telling me those particular things that I need to be aware of. And hey, Brian, don't say it this way. Say it this way. Because when you say cultures, a lot of people, come on, I'm a big dude. So when I say things, if I put too much inflection in my voice or if I say it too deeply, then I'm that angry person. And a lot of times that is so far from the truth. I'm just passionate about what I do. So now, now that I'm at this stage in my life, I know that I have to be, number one, aware of whom I'm giving this message to, what the message is that I'm delivering, and what exactly do I want them to take away from the.
Brian, you are angry a lot. No, I'm joking. I've never seen you angry ever. I'm joking. Sharon,
I'm gonna see you in a couple of days. I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm so excited about Scrub Off. Listen, can we just show of hands? How many people on this
Well,
screen who's visible right now? And if you're in the comments and this is you, please put in the comment like me too. Well, not me too, but I have. How many people someone has actually really tried to quote unquote come for you in a meeting or in an email, and you know that the point of the message was to either A, disrespect, B, devalue, C, make you look as if you didn't know what you were talking about, or let me tell you, distract. And often people who are new in leadership, and let me tell you, you don't have to be just the lead to be new in leadership. You can be a whole manager and still be professionally immature as it relates to this type of communication. We've all experienced that. So none of us on the screen are saying we've arrived or trying to be dismissive of the fact that that messenger, oh, you, that's some more disrespectful stuff, and now you want to give it back to them. Listen, I get that, but honestly, when I'm coaching individuals, we're going to give it back to them different. Mm-hmm. We're going to give it back to them differently. Yes, we are. And it's not going to cost you your job. It's not going to cost you your audience. It's not going to cost you a position or some type of influence you may have had with someone else, because now somebody can project a bias back on you. No, we're going to get to keep what we work for. And somebody's not going to be able to just say something sideways and distract us. We're going to keep all of that. And we're going to use effective communication. We're going to put it right back in their lap. Yes, we are. Yes, we are going to give it right back to them with a smile. So what LaWayne is saying, like about the messenger, that's true. Sometimes people speak who aren't qualified. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people speak and they don't know what they're talking about. But our communication still has to be effective, Absolutely. Not fake. Not fake. People can smell fake a mile away and no one wants to fool with it. So I just wanted to say yes. And how do I know if I'm an ineffective communicator, or I'm still I'm in my feels over somebody making me look bad, or I know they didn't try to embarrass me. You can feel all that, but everybody doesn't need to know. Mm-hmm. Your body language doesn't need to communicate it. The pitch of your voice, the volume of your voice doesn't need to communicate it. That's some stuff you take home or you talk with your coach or your mentor about, and we process that, we navigate it, and we come back like, hello, and we sit in the seats that we're designed to sit in. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm off my soapbox.
No, it was needed and given. This was a good conversation. You know that I have. You know what was an embarrassing moment, and I'm gonna share. I remember I was a technician, up and coming lead worker. And I sent the shift report out, right? Shift report took the time to read it, but it didn't say shift. I forgot the F in shift. So when I tell you, this thing was routed to every member in this huge institution. It was a laugh of the cafeteria. I'm like, the shit report, and so listen, we've been there. You got to laugh at yourself, but it was a thing. Thank you so much for tonight. This is a great conversation.
We have a few minutes though. Maybe can we? I don't know. There was some things in the news. Hey guys, we're going to shift here just temporarily. Yep. Again, we're doing this show because last week there was something that we really wanted to give attention to, and unfortunately, this week there's been another act of violence. I don't know all about it. I haven't even read on it. I just saw it come across my feed. Do you guys, as far as what's in the news, are any of you familiar with the information?
Yeah, another horrible act of violence in Texas, at an elementary school. Truly heartbreaking. Our prayers go out to the families, to that community. And it's always a hard pill to swallow when violence and innocent people are involved. It becomes even harder when there's babies involved. So today's a very tough day for our nation and a very hard day for that community. And so again, please send our prayers out. It was a young person who allegedly was the perpetrator. 18 or 19 years old. Again, we have to teach these children to help mold them into a positive world citizens, and we have to all be better trained to see some of these signs, you know. So maybe on the next show we can really get some of our colleagues who are in the mental health space on this platform so they can begin to teach us what are some of the signs when people are simply not well, are not living to their highest expectation, or adverse to humanity. I know that's a lot said, but
No,
it's a heavy load. It's a very heavy
maybe
load.
let's really look at that. I know that we can ask a couple of our colleagues, Alessandra, Rebecca. I can reach out to Dr. Alana, the trauma psychiatrist, so we can see. And if we need to revamp something because it is a timely thing, so that we can share tools with our audience. Then I'm with that. I'm all the way with that. Let's also say this before we go, Brian. You just got to jump in. I know you got some things you want to say. You just got to jump in and say, "Hey."
Listen, I when he talked about that, I had just got off the phone with my mom right before I got on here, and she was talking about the same thing. So it's just, like I said, just dealt with something similar, and personally. So having to deal with the whole situation and deal with that, it's just, it just hit home a little bit. So
yeah.
I have 3 things I want to say. Grace and strength to you, Brian.
Thank
you. I'm sorry. I wish I'd give you a hug right now. I'm really sorry about that. It's a lot, man. It's a lot.
It is, but
go ahead. I got him, bro.
No, that's what I was saying. When you sit back and look at the whole situation, I think just being in the roles that we're in and just being in that situation, you have to learn how to roll through it. As people say, I don't look like what I've been through or what I'm going through. You put a smile on your face and you keep it moving. And I'm not going to sit here and say that it doesn't hurt and that it doesn't bother you and those particular things don't reflect. It does. But at the end of the day, you never know who's watching you. And I'll end this on a positive note. Today, we had spoke to some people who are just graduated from school and doing certain things. And we talked about what sterile processing is and what it does. And I had someone that graduated that just recently, I think he's graduating here shortly. And one of the things that he really said is he wanted to come into the department to see what we do because he was so passionate about it. And he couldn't get anyone to say yes. So I finally said, okay, go ahead and told his grandmother to bring him in. Let me show him what we do. And I said, it's not going to be a quick thing of going through. I'm going to let him actually experience the whole thing. And he was so excited he couldn't sleep. He slept for 2 hours last night. He came into the department wide up today. And just to see that young man walk through the department, to see everything and walk out with a feeling of this is what I want to do, it made me forget about everything else that's going on at that moment because I was able to touch one person. And if I can touch one person, then I've done my job. So I'm good.
Powerful.
That, and I hope guys who are listening, that's what you do. That's the job that you do. Sometimes we get so caught up in the rigmarole or what someone may say negative, but no, this is patient safety. You are impacting individuals. You are helping people have a better quality of life. People have life, period, and a better quality of life. So kudos and thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Hey, lots going on. I'm looking forward to seeing you both at the Scrub Ball.
Scrub Ball.
Looking forward to it. Looking
fun. Enjoy some of the lighter pleasantries of life, each other, So safe travels. Thank our audience for joining us here on Knowledge and Nonsense. And Sharon, if you can take us out, close us out. This is a great conversation. Both.
All right. I'm closing this out then. Y'all have a good day. Be safe. I hope to see you at Scrub Ball. Please come up and say, hey, we will have a live show there on Knowledge and Nonsense. Also, for those of you who are inside of the leadership training, woohoo. Let's definitely take some ussies, not some selfies, but some ussies. And just thank you. Thank you for what you do. and download this somewhere on YouTube. Go to YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the bell, ding, so you can be notified when we go live, and download this particular episode and make this a part of your arsenal as you grow in leadership, as you ascend the career ladder, and as you want to navigate, not just inside the department, but outside. Because there's some real nuggets here about communication, and communication opens so many doors.
Indeed.
Y'all be safe. God bless. And I'll see you soon.
Indeed. Indeed.